Man, what's going on? Uh, man, just getting to the house from work. Nice day out here today. I said, man, let me go outside. Just the lighting is better outside. That's one thing about YouTube. What I'm learning, you need to have good lighting. You know, uh, to really kind of make your pictures look better. Because dark rooms and no color does not make it visually appealing, But anyway, that's another thing. Uh, Man, I got into a big argument with my wife on Saturday. I, I coach my son's basketball team, and so we had our game Saturday. We took a tough loss. Like, we really gave that game away. We was up by 10, like, I want to say going into the fourth quarter, and I kind of blame myself. I feel like, I should have had my team more mentally prepared, more ready for, press breaks and, different defensive strategies. We don't get to practice a lot. We only practice maybe once every 3 weeks. They got games every week, and so practice is just something that coaches got to try to schedule if they can, and that's if the gyms have availability. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off subject. We ended up losing a close one. I was upset about that, and so after the game, me and my assistant coach, which is also my partner, we were just walking out alongside my family and them, and me and him just kind of chopping it up, and I had asked him about something, and then my wife came and just got in a conversation. Like, I ain't gonna say she just wasn't rude when she got in, but the first no was the fact that she came and inserted herself into our conversation, right? And mind you, whenever she talking to her homegirls, anything like that, I don't get into their conversations. If they ask me a question, I'll answer. But I don't just go and insert myself into their conversations. That's just not. I'm not doing that. And so when she did that, I'm like, this ain't got nothing to do with you. Just me and my partner talking. Anyway, like I say, it wasn't nothing like rude or nothing like that, but it just was the the understanding. But anyway, she started talking. She was talking and inserted herself into the conversation, and it was kind of like she had a different standpoint regards to what my partner had. My partner was kind of like, well, I think this and think about that, because I don't want to go too deep into it. And she was like, oh no, that's not this, yada yada yada. And so I'm just hearing her going back, and I'm kind of already like, already, kind of irritated me by coming into our conversation, but please don't irritate me no more by something else. And so then she just kind of started, she was heavy on her point. You know what I'm saying? My wife, she can be outspoken sometimes, and when she truly believes something, she truly believes it. And, it can kind of come off, it can be offensive, And so some of the things she had said was like, it was kind of offensive. Like, hey, just because you think this and he think this, don't make both of y'all wrong. And if he is, wrong, or you are wrong in some of your actions, it might not be your place to let him know that, And so some of the things she was saying just, it was offensive. I took it as offensive, and so after it was said and done, I ain't gonna say that. Let's not move forward that fast. I had, inserted myself. Well, not inserted myself, but I had said something in regards to like, well, he probably feel like this because if this was the situation, then that took place too. And so she was like appalled that I had a point of view like that, because I was like trying to get her to, understand his perspective, but also I had the same perspective. Like while they was kind of talking, I was just kind of just quiet and just let her get her points off and things of that nature. And another thing, she was kind of like, cutting him off when he was trying to get his points off. So I'm like, man, the whole thing was I didn't like the way it was represented. I didn't like, you my wife. I don't want, you being hard to talk to and being offensive in your conversations, especially when it comes to friends of mine. And so finally, like I say, after I inserted myself into the conversation, I'm like, well, maybe you feel like this way about the situation. She's like appalled. It's like, we gotta be supposed to be on the same page, yada yada yada. And this is one thing in marriages that, a man and I say a woman, but specifically a man, there are some times when we bite our tongue on stuff because every battle is not meant to be fought. And you trying to argue with a woman, you ain't gonna win that. And so I think a lot of times men just kind of, when women say things and have points to prove, they just like, okay, yada yada, yeah, because we don't even want to get into it. You know what I'm saying? And so when a man does speak up in regards to how he feels about something, then it could come off shock to a woman because she might not be used to men expressing themselves, about how they truly feel about something, because another thing with women is a man sometimes can't fully express how he feel about something and be as raw as he wants to be because women aren't always able to receive it in a way that he meant it. A man doesn't mean it in a way to, try to hurt you or try to demean you or to try to disrespect you, any of those type of things. But some men, and I had to, grow with this. I'm just used to saying whatever I have to say. Whatever's, if that's how I feel about something, I just say it. And the way I see it may come off kind of harsh. I don't mean it that way, but when you talking to other men just be like straight up, like, this is how I go. And so with women, being that y'all are, emotionally tied to each other, that y'all have love for each other, and she looks at you as a protector, and as being careful with her feelings. When you say something that feels harsh to her or may be the harsh truth, then it will kind of not break her, but it will hurt her feelings. And so coming back to the story, when I said, I was like, hey, well, this is how I feel about this, yada yada, she was like appalled, like, how would you say that? And so that raised her emotions in regards to like her tone and things of that nature. So it went from having just being a friendly conversation, to being now a conversation with her husband that is a disagreement in perspectives, And so once it became that, now she started to, say little slick things like, just little slick things, and so things that really were disrespectful. And so my thing is, we didn't got to this point. For one, from the beginning of a conversation you shouldn't have been in. Secondly, you having your point of view, which is fine, but being pushy with your situation, and then being offensive without you even knowing it, And so now we're in this disagreement, and then we're in front of my friend, who at the whole time he's had a good spirit. He cool, he laughing, yada yada, not laughing at us, but kind of laughing because she has his perspective and he's trying to say what he wants to say. And so when we got, me and my friend probably dabbed up and, went on our way. He know what it is because he goes through the same thing. Me and my wife walked to the car. She clearly has an attitude. I'm clearly have an attitude about what happened. And she like, it's just, we not on the same page. And she's saying stuff under her breath, yada yada. And so, let this car pass. I'm like, I'm hot, and normally I don't get hot like this. Normally I'm not really heated. I'm really cool tempered, but I'm coming off a loss that of a basketball game that we should have won. You know, and so I'm hot because the rest wasn't giving us our call. Then this happens, so I'm really hot because I feel like you, as my wife, us being one, I wasn't represented properly. There was multiple times where you crossed the line. A man-to-man conversation should be between a man and a man. I don't go into a woman and a woman's conversation, and so it really had me like heated and upset, So she called me, she was like, you know, uh, what, blase, what you mean when you think like that, you really think like that, yada yada. And I'm like, first of all, it's not a problem with me thinking that way. One thing you gotta understand, we are one, but we have a different perspectives, and the way we can combat different perspectives is actually talking about it and letting people be free in how they feel about something, and being receiving of it. Although I might not agree with you, I'm not going to catch an attitude with you. I'm not gonna give you an unsafe place to speak how you feel. I'm not gonna do those things because I want to keep lines of communication open, and I want freeness, I want transparency, I want honesty. But the appall and the shock behind what I said, pretty much, was one of the leading things to this disagreement. So she like, we not on the same page, and yada yada. And I'm like, you right, we not on the same page in regards to this. Another thing about women is when women are emotional, they would just say things in regards to the broad frame of the relationship. It's not specific to what's going on, because if they really looked at the whole thing, broad frame of a true relationship, they would know that we are on the same page most of the time. Of course, there will be things that we not specifically agreeing on. Of course, there's gonna be things that you see A and I see B. That is just being human beings, But in regards to our fullness of our relationship, there's a lot of things that we agree on. But when a person is angry, or a woman is especially emotional, then it's everything. It's all the relationship. She bringing everything into it. Whatever happened, she bringing it all into it. So anyway, I told her that. And so my main thing, I was pushing this down because she started to get hot. I'm like, man, I just feel like I wasn't represented properly. I was not represented properly. And so my tone is getting higher. I'm getting stronger with my words. I'm just saying over, I wasn't represented properly. And so as a man, having a wife, a man wants to be represented properly. That means with self-respect, the first thing, knowing the things that, triggers him, or the things that his deal breakers, or the things that, are a no-go with him. And so when I was telling her I wasn't represented properly, I was naming the things that I'm telling you now. Like, man, first of all, you stepped into a conversation that was not not about you, but it didn't have anything to do with you. It was not your conversation. I don't step into you and your friend's conversation. And then you was so heavy on your point that you was what's the word? Disrupting my man, like you was cutting him off, yada yada, because it sounded like you kind of started getting attitude, but I don't think that was it. I think you just be so opinionated and headstrong about how you feel, you just go in, and you was offensive. And then when you heard what I had to say, that just took you over. Your attitude kicked in, and I was not represented properly. I wanted to be represented properly, and so she was trying to say what she had to say. And I didn't care about none of that. I was like, I wasn't represented properly. You represent me properly. And so at this point, I'm heated. I'm upset. My boys in the back, I can tell they feeling a certain type of way. They heated. And so anyway, we that tension just lingered on all through the day, and it's still kind of lingering on. I ain't gonna say still, kind of. It is lingering on, because she felt like how vocally I came at her, I shouldn't have came at her. And I will take accountability for that, because it's not by what you say, it's by how you say it. And I know, being with my wife for the many years I've been with her, and just dealing with women, you know say what you gotta say, stand on business, stand on what you gotta say, but how you say it, you have to be soft, you have to be pillowy, you have to watch your words and things with women. The thing is, men, we can't we have to check ourselves, because women will go off, they go crazy, they'll crash out in regards to just them feeling upset about something and getting loud and yada yada. And you gotta set a standard that will not be accepted. Why? Because you receiving all that over time, and you biting your tongue and you playing it cool and yada yada yada. Well, it might become a time where you ain't gonna be able to bite your tongue. You gonna be ready to bite something off. You ain't gonna be cool. You know what I'm saying? You gonna be heated and you gonna get loud and you gonna want to overtalk her. And I think it was just the combination of some of that, and then the game, intensity and things of that nature, that testosterone just combined, and so I could have handled myself. I could have spoke it to her in a better way. I could have communicated it in a better way. I could have just like, listen, I'm gonna be straight up with you, and I'm gonna stand on on how I feel and what I expect. You did not represent me well. My wife, I don't want her coming in conversations with me and my friends. Okay, if we invite you to a conversation, hey, that's another thing. Okay, and there's other things that I don't want. And so whether you agree with it or you disagree with it, this is what I expect. That's my expectation. And from moving forward, I expect you not to do that anymore. I expect you not to do that anymore. You had your conversation with your friends. You ain't got to worry about me coming in, right? You ain't got to worry about me offending your friends or trying to push a point down. To them. You ain't got to worry about that. And I'm not about to worry about that with you. It just ain't gonna happen. And so I stood on business. Like, that's how I felt. But also, I could have been more sensitive. And that's something I gotta work on. Being more sensitive, being more careful, and speaking with care, with my words and things of that nature. And then there's just sometimes as men, I don't mean this literally, but women are crazy and men can be dumb. We say things with no intent to hurt you, but we just saying how we feel. Some stuff that just comes straight, not from the head, but from the other head. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a woman gonna call you out on it. She's gonna be like, what you said was hurtful. Why you had to say that to me? Why you had to talk to me like that? And we gotta take our whips for that. We have to take accountability, and we have to look at it and see how can what we can do better from that. But like I said, that argument from Saturday is still lingering around today. Because she's just not herself, and I'm myself, but as a man, I know I need to go and try to, make it better. And I ain't gonna lie to you, sometimes that's hard for me. Like, sometimes I be like, man, forget doing, I ain't finna do nothing. Like, I be in my own zone. But when you married, your zone is her zone. Right? Ain't no own zone. Your zone is her zone. Her zone, your zone, y'all zone. That's what it is. So, man, that's how it goes sometimes. But we gonna be alright. Yeah, we gonna be alright. But anyway,